Hundreds of police officers simultaneously aimed their guns at the water surface, not daring to relax at all. Then they brought in dozens of high-powered water pumps. They thought that as long as they drained the reservoir, they could successfully capture the serial killer hiding at the bottom. But the result was very disappointing. After the river water receded, there was only an oxygen tank on the dry riverbed. Obviously, the killer had already escaped from there. At the same time, another murder occurred in a different body of water. A woman was sunbathing on the water surface, unaware that the killer had quietly swum up beside her and slashed open her inflatable raft with a knife. By the time the woman noticed the danger, it was too late. After receiving the report, police rushed to the scene. But time was urgent, so this time, the chief no longer used the water pumps. Instead, he sent the officer with the best swimming ability to search for the killer underwater. For the officer's safety, the chief also tied a rope around him. Underwater, there was not only the woman's body, but also a sunken ship. The officer opened the cabin and found a large number of murder weapons inside. It seemed this was the killer's hiding place. Just as he was examining the guns, a male corpse suddenly drifted past behind him. The officer was terrified. He quickly shook the rope to have the two people on shore pull him back, but it was too late. Just as he was about to swim out of the cabin, he found the killer blocking the exit. The two immediately began fighting. Soon the killer gained the advantage and stabbed him directly. A large amount of bubbles immediately rose on the water surface. Seeing this, the chief quickly pulled the rope back. The other officers also rushed to help. Several people used all their strength and finally pulled the officer out of the water, but he had stopped breathing. Then a large amount of bubbles appeared on the river surface again, and they were moving forward rapidly. The chief thought these were all caused by the killer's escape, so he quickly chased after him by boat. This time, he couldn't let him escape right under his nose, no matter what. But the chief still underestimated his opponent's swimming ability. Gradually, those bubbles disappeared from the water surface. They waited on shore for a full day, without seeing a single person surface. Just as they were preparing to return to the police station, the emergency call rang again. A passerby claimed that a suspicious man wearing a wetsuit had appeared at the nearby amusement park. The chief didn't dare delay a moment. He immediately turned the car around and came to the scene with his assistant Jimmy. After so much effort, they finally saw the killer's figure this time, but he had stolen a speedboat and was about to escape. At this moment, Jimmy couldn't care about that much. He also took a speedboat from the amusement park without permission. With his excellent boat handling skills, Jimmy shortened the distance to the killer. But the killer lived on this river, so he was very familiar with the terrain. To shake off Jimmy's pursuit, he drove the boat into the narrow waterways of the urban area. This was different from the river outside the city. If the speed was slightly faster, there was a possibility of hitting tourists on the water. Soon, the killer saw a tour boat ahead under the bridge. This gave him a chance to shake off Jimmy. He turned the wheel and drove the boat toward the slope on the roadside. Under the effect of inertia, the speedboat flew directly over the bridge surface and landed steadily in the water. Jimmy, in order to avoid that tour boat, had to reduce his speed. After pulling away the distance, the killer became careless. Unexpectedly, because of this, he crashed into a cargo ship ahead, causing a violent explosion. But when Jimmy arrived at the scene and searched all the surrounding waters, he didn't find the killer's body. Only when he turned around did he discover that the man wasn't dead, but had hidden in a sewer by the river. Although he knew there might be danger inside, as a police officer, catching bad guys was Jimmy's profession. So he also carefully walked into the tunnel. All the way to the end of the sewer, he didn't find any trace of the killer. He only saw a bloodied shirt he had left behind. Above his head was a shaft leading up to the road surface. Jimmy thought he had escaped from here, so he also grabbed the ladder and prepared to climb up. But just as he was about to reach the opening, the killer suddenly appeared before him. Jimmy couldn't dodge in time and was shot by the spear gun, falling back into the sewer. The killer loaded the spear gun, preparing to attack again. Fortunately, Jimmy picked up the gun from the ground and injured his eye. This also exhausted Jimmy's strength and he passed out. When he woke up again, he was already lying in a hospital bed, but the killer had still escaped. He told all of this to his girlfriend who came to visit him. This would become key to catching the killer. Today was also his girlfriend's medical appointment day. After leaving the hospital, Lisa arrived at the psychologist's house on time. The housekeeper opened the door. The housekeeper told her the doctor wasn't home and asked her to wait in the hall. Then the housekeeper went out on business. While waiting, Lisa heard sounds coming from the basement. She was very curious about this, so she opened the door and walked in. Unexpectedly, there was a dock here leading to the outside river. A dripping wetsuit hung on the shore, as if just taken off. The goggles were placed in a box nearby, and the lenses were also cracked. Lisa was terrified. Connecting this to what Jimmy had just said, she believed the psychologist was that serial killer. So she quickly dialed Jimmy's phone. But it was the nurse who answered, because Jimmy was sound asleep at the time. Lisa had just finished describing the current situation when the psychologist who had gone out drove home. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Lisa quickly hung up the phone and hid behind the wall. But the doctor had already smelled her perfume, so Lisa would be discovered sooner or later. At this time, the nurse also woke Jimmy. After understanding the situation, Jimmy and the chief immediately headed to the doctor's house. And Lisa also didn't just sit and wait for death. While the doctor was playing piano, she quietly walked up the steps and came to the basement again. She planned to swim out from the waterway here, but she accidentally kicked over a can on the ground. After hearing the noise, the doctor quickly took out a gun from the drawer and cautiously walked into the basement. As soon as he entered, he saw Lisa's shoes in the corner. But when he walked closer, he found he had been tricked. This was all Lisa's plan. While his attention was distracted, Lisa immediately launched a sneak attack from behind him. She used the boat paddle to knock the doctor unconscious with a few strikes. But just as Lisa had just let down her guard, the real killer suddenly surfaced from the water and grabbed her. As the wooden railings on the stairs broke one by one, Lisa was about to be dragged into the water. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Jimmy arrived. He fired several shots and finally killed the murderer, saving Lisa. After the psychologist woke up, they learned the truth of the whole matter. It turned out the killer was the doctor's friend. He was originally a professional diver. Once, when helping someone salvage a sunken ship, an accident occurred. Knowing full well that the ship was full of dangerous chemicals, the captain didn't inform him. In the end, a canister of strong acid leaked accidentally, burning him all over his body. From that time on, his temperament changed greatly, and he developed the idea of taking revenge on society.